Welcome to another segment of provocative conversations destined to provoke further thought and spark greater questions regarding God, church, and the religious establishments of both the past and the present. I am the proud heretic, Mr. Provocateur himself. Hello, Mr. Provocateur himself, coming to you to give further word regarding things that were spoken to me, prophetic utterances that I received during this pandemic period, where or on 22 different occasions I received revelation regarding the happenings, the occurrences of this season, during this season, revelation regarding specific groups. I by far do not conclude that I have the absolute completeness of what is. There is a verse of scripture that I remember well that says, we only know in part, we only prophesy in part. I do not necessarily consider myself a prophet, but I do consider myself one who hears from God quite and very often. This has been something that I've known for years and years, something that I don't necessarily talk about. However, I will make a statement saying, well, I heard God say, I heard God tell me, God stated to me. One of the things that God is big with me is revelation regarding teachings, regarding subject matters. God speaks to me regarding subject matters that pertains to daily living, revelation regarding issues that people have and why people have these issues. My teachings, the teachings that I present to others, don't come from anyone's books. My teachings, the teachings that I put forth, are teachings that come from personal revelation that God has given me. I teach from revelation that God has given to me, and during the time of him giving them to me, I typed them down as he was giving them to me. And I have years and years and years of topical studies regarding things that God has said to me, revelational teachings that God has given me. But in this particular pandemic season, God did something that's not normal with me. He gave me something. I mean, he'll speak things to me regarding issues, regarding what's coming up or whatever. But for him to give me something so lengthy and so detailed about the world and about, say, the president, politicians, the church, most definitely the church, the pandemic itself, what it represents, what it's about, what it's not about, what it will do and what it won't do. Now, again, I don't believe that I have the total answer to it all. In fact, God was giving me so much, I was almost tired of it because it was just coming and coming and coming, and I could not keep up with it. And I'm like, God, if you don't stop talking to me, how am I ever going to have time to put this together? Because it was so much information. It is so much information. Yet I persisted on. I submitted to what I was hearing and typed it and typed it and typed it. Then when I began to put it together in a format that I would be able to stay on topic, not lose anyone, and yet still give the exact wordings that I heard God give me. That was a task in itself, but I was up for the task because, you see, before I ever even came into this full season, in the opening of this season. I believe this season started somewhere in 2019, somewhere in the last quarter of 2019, somewhere in the August, September, October range of 2019. This is when I believe that this season started. And the reason that I believe it is because that was when God began to say to me, you're going to begin to hear me like you've never heard me before. I'm going to begin to speak to you in ways you've never even heard of me speak to you. I'm going to give you things that you've never heard me give you, you've never heard before. I didn't understand what he was saying, but he said, this is a period of hearing for you. This is a divine period for you to hear me more clearly than you've ever heard me. And he said, the things that I'm giving you, you're going to have to teach. You're going to have to give these things to others. And I did not understand what he was saying, but I was thinking mainly he was talking about, well, all the revelatory teachings that he's given me all the way up to this point, there's going to be a people who's going to receive these revelatory truths from me, even though these truths bump heads seemingly with the Bible, or definitely in some points with the Bible. It doesn't matter. The Bible isn't the authority. God is. And that's where we've gotten things wrong. We've allowed or desired for the Bible to be the authority, when in actuality, God is the authority. So anyway, I was thinking God was talking to me, and I'll talk about that type stuff a little later. I know people get messed up over some of the things I say, but I told you I'm a heretic. Okay. I'm a heretic. I'm one who goes against the traditional teachings of man and the church. It's just what it is. I don't apologize for it. The only thing I may be disheartened about is the fact that so many people are missing God and thinking they're in the heartbeat of God, and that how they tear down others and how they get on the internet and dog out others, whether it's through blogs, whether it's through responding to a video, or whether it's through Facebook or Instagram or whatever form of social media that they go on, and they think they're doing God a service, when in actuality, there's a verse in the Bible that says there'll come a time where they'll persecute you and they'll think they're doing God service or God a service for what they're doing to you. See, if you think your God is hateful and resentful and he retaliates in an unjust and harsh manner, well, you got him wrong for the most part. Yes, he does retaliate, but not in a vindictive way. The Bible says, for whom the Lord loves, he chastises. God does correct. He does instruct. He does rebuke. He does reprove. He teaches us in that, though. Not he destroys us in that. We destroy. When you speak about destruction and destroy, it doesn't necessarily mean the literal destruction of a thing, though at times it does and it will. But destruction is the undoing of a thing. A lot of things are undone by God because they were never done correctly in the first place. Anyway, I am one to put forth whatever I hear from God. Whatever it is, it's hard. Even this subject matter that we're getting ready to talk about now, this subject matter of the subtopic of what God has given me regarding or in relation to the president and politicians of America. This is a hard speaking here that I'm getting ready to speak. Not necessarily, but it is. And it's necessary. I don't want to do it. In my personal conversations, I will bring some things up that I don't like. I'll even see television and say some harsh words. Yes, I will. I bleed. I'm human. I feel and I sense, and I'm not blind. I'm not deaf. I hear what's going on through politicians and through the president, but I also know where the politicians and the president, to a great degree, receive their orders from and from what standpoint they're talking from. They're the hearts of the people. They're the hearts of those who voted them into office, for the most part. I don't ignore that, though I have had to ignore it to continue forward. These are hard teachings. These are hard messages. These are those Jeremiah type messages where Jeremiah was seen as the doom and gloom prophet. I don't know what to tell you. Alls I know is what I hear and what I'm seeing. And I sat on this stuff for nearly 8 months. And here I am speaking about these things now, much of which have proven to be true, have already come true, proven to be true. One thing that I began to say to people, and it wasn't necessarily what God said to me. And then again, it was what God said to me, but not in a specific manner. When God said to me back in 2019, around September, October time frame, God said, you're in a period of hearing. You're going to begin to hear me clearer than you've ever heard me before. You're going to hear me say things you've never heard me say to you before. You're going to receive revelation. I'm going to begin to show you and teach you some things. I'm going to tell you some things. Your ears are going to hear more clearly than they've ever heard before. And he began to say these things to me. Well, when I realized in March of 2020, what was going on, then I began to understand these are the things that God was talking to me about, and that these are things that, how would I say, these are things that are not being widely heard and that I've never heard before. Because we were going into a season that I had never, neither of us, none of us has ever gone or experienced before. And in these hearings, I realized, wait a minute, in this season, this is a season of hearing. And God told me that too, as well. This is a season of hearing. This is a season for people to hear him. So I began to say to people, in March, anyone who says that they can't hear from God, there's something perhaps wrong with them, because God is doing a lot of speaking right now in this season. God is not hiding away. His voice is not not hidden somewhere. God is speaking. God is talking loud in this season. That doesn't mean that everyone who's talking is talking from what they're hearing from God. That is not what this means, because a lot of people are talking, but they're not talking from anything that God is saying necessarily in this season, unless it is a spirit that was sent forth as a lion spirit that people are hearing. And you can contribute that to God, being that if it is true how the Bible lays it out, that and God sent the lion spirit that they might believe the lie. However that goes, you take it however you go. Some people say, well, I heard a lion spirit. Well, it is what it is. What I will say is this, like I said, I sat on this for 8 months, and you see, anyone who has followed these recordings through regarding the this pandemic season, then you will know that the things that you heard me say, you're seeing them come to pass. You've seen a lot of it already come to pass, and perhaps you're hearing other people say it. So I'll let you make that determination for yourself, and hopefully you'll let God make that determination for you as to whether I am of the truth or of the lie. It is what it is. I began to say to people Not only is God speaking, but anyone who says that God said and God said and God said, you will know that God said it. Why? Because it's not taking us 10 years to see what God is saying now. It's not taking 5 years or even 1 year to see what God is saying. It's only taking months. Now watch this here. I began to say to people, and I believe that this was more prophetic than anything that I knew. Now I know it to be so that it apparently was prophetic for some things that God stated to maybe in July or August. God said to me, well, I had been saying we're not looking at years for God to do anything now. If someone says that God said it, you will see it in months. If someone says that God said it, you will see it quickly. And then I began to say, you will see it weekly. You will see it in a month or in days or even in that day. And then people began to call me and say, I see exactly what you were saying right now. And that will be like the next day or that night that I stated it. Or I began to say to some people, we're living month to month. And then I began to say, but soon we're going to begin to live week to week. And I said, and then eventually we're going to go day to day. Well, right now we are living day to day. Right now, you can't even say in a month. In a month. You can't say in a week. You can't even say we're getting to the point where it's going to be minute by minute. We're week by week, but we're getting to a point where it's minute by minute. God said to me, time will begin to lose the space in between itself. Time will not occur as we knew it. We will not know time as we once knew it. Time will have no lapse in between itself. Anyway, as God began to talk to me and I began to type down all the things he was saying to me the 22 different times over the past few months that God was talking to me, not including what he talked to me at the beginning of 2020, at the end of 2019, in the last quarter of 2019, and even back in 2018. As God began to speak these things to me and I was writing them down, I knew that I had to put them forth to the people, but I didn't know how to do it. And I was saying, God, help me to put this together, how to deliver it to the people. And then it came to me, split it up in subtopics and cut and paste the portions that go to each topic from everything that you've received. And that's that is very, 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 very tedious. That took 12, 14, 16 hours a day. It took several months for me to do this here. And in the process of me doing it, God would mess things up pretty much by the fact that he was giving me new stuff, constantly pouring new stuff into me. And it's like, God, am I going to ever catch up? Am I going to ever catch up? But I did catch up. I caught up in August. In August, I caught up. But then he gave me a few more in September. So I had to add to that. Well, of course, we're now here in October. Anyway, one of the subtopics that I have that God spoke to me regarding is related to the president and politicians, to the president and the politicians of America. These are the words that I heard regarding the president of this divided states of America and the politicians of this divided states of America. I need not say anything regarding how messed up things are in this divided states of America at this time and period in history. I need not say anything regarding it because people see it for what it is themselves. However, I will speak a few things, a few general basic things in regards to all that is going on, but I will be specific in what I'm speaking about as it relates to what God stated to me regarding all of this here. Let me say this here. I am neither Republican or Democrat. I am who I am. I want to stand back from the fire and speak forth what I see. And that's all I am doing. I just want to stand back from the fire and speak what it is I see and what it is that I hear. I don't necessarily have a dog in the fight. Yes, I am Afro-American, or I am an American who most likely had my roots in Africa. I am somewhat, whether I like it or not, whether it's purposed by me or not, somewhat representative of the Afro-American or the black culture, or maybe not the black culture, but the black race of this country. I am that. However, just because I'm that does not mean that I am sold to all of the ideas of the black culture or the black race. I love blacks, but I love whites too. I love Hispanic. I love Germans. I love Jews. I love Palestinians. I love Iranians, Iraqis. I love Armenians, Jamaicans, Barbadians, or however you call those people. I have no issue. I love them as far as I know that I can love them. I have not had a whole bunch of dealings with them to know otherwise regarding the contents of my heart toward them. But I am not picking or choosing over anyone. I'm just speaking truths. Now, I'm going to call it out. If you are a racist, I'm calling you out. Whether it's on the black side or the white side, I'm calling it out. I'm just calling out what is real and what is true. If you're one of my family members and you got a nasty attitude or you got a nasty characteristic about yourself and it's in line with what I'm speaking about, I'll call that out. I may not call your name out, but I'll call that out. I don't have a problem. I already know. And many of you have the same problems because Jesus said that we would, that most of my family members, they would never get with me. They would never want to hear what I'm saying. Why? Because of a lot of it refers to a lot of them because they're religious. They're not sold to this thing. They're just religious. It's just something our family, it's like part of our heritage. You know, if you grew up in Florida, you know, and you're black, for the most part, okay, there are exceptions to this. You just like mangoes, especially if you're from South Florida. You just like mangoes. That's just what we do. You know, you like guavas, you know, you like lemons, you like limes, you like sea grapes, you like blackberries. You just like them. You love hating mangoes. That's just what we do. I mean, that's what you like kumquats. You know, you just know that you like now and laters. Yeah. Suck some now, suck some later. That's just what we do. We like that stuff, you know. It is what it is. If you from Broward County and you live in that Deerfield, Pompano area, especially in that Deerfield area, you know Miss Gussie. You remember Miss Gussie's store. You know, it's just what we did in that hood at that time. It's just what it was. We loved Miss Gussie's cookies. We loved those cookies. We loved her candy. She helped us get through those summers. She helped us with that stuff. Thank you, Miss Gussie. Well, that's how it is with my family and a lot of your families. We just did the religion thing because we just, you know, we were just always around religion. We don't know too many scriptures. You know, we don't know how to live too many of any of them. We don't know how to apply those scriptures to each other, but we know how to apply them in the appropriate settings. We know how to usher them out when we want to get someone straight, but we don't know how to live them towards people who are hard, even family members who we don't understand, who we feel are hard to understand or live with. See, but I don't have a problem. And I thank God that there was a rift in my family members as it relates to myself. Why? Because that set me up for rejection. That set me up to where I can live with rejection and it doesn't bother me. It bothers me, but not to the degree that I have to stop and that I won't continue what God has sent me forth to do. My family, their misunderstanding of me or whatever, it is what it is. That stuff helped me, made me, shaped and molded me by being a reject, to take the rejection of the world, to take the rejection of the church all of these years later. So I'm not here to entertain anyone. I'm glad people did not know the substance that I possess. I'm glad that people did not realize the hand of God upon my life. But even though you didn't realize it, I always knew it in the sense of, or from the standpoint of in my mid 20s, maybe 25 years and on, I knew. So I'm grateful for that. And I will not take that back just because others can't see or understand what God has done and is doing in me. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. It does not matter, though it does. It does not, but it does. You don't want to care to the point that it paralyzes you and keeps you from speaking forth truth. Yet at the same time, because of your humanity and because people who have the type heart or the type nurturing that I have within me from God, you want people to accept you. You want people to receive you. You want people to hear from you or to hear what God is doing with you. You want them to be partakers of. Yet at the same time, you understand that, hey, at the end of the day, if you don't get with it, then it's fine. It's fine. I'm still going to do what God has for me to do. In saying all of that, I am to a point now in these recordings, in these prophetic utterances, where I now have to speak forth regarding President Donald Trump and the politicians of America. This is not a easy subject matter, but I'm going to tell you what's going to be even tougher when I get to the church. But it is what it is. Mr. President, I'm coming at you. Mr. Donald Trump, I'm coming at you. Mr. Politician, Miss Politician of America, I'm coming at you. Why? Because I'm bringing something to you. I'm coming to you like Jeremiah did. My face is set like a flint, like a rock. And I have to speak what I know God has said to me. I have to speak it forth. You all have had, especially you, Mr. President, you have had everyone tickle your fancy. You have controlled every individual voice that has ever come your way. You have people, you have the church. I used to think that you have the church as your puppets. People, you're not wholly correct if you believe that way. In actuality, the church has you, Mr. Trump, in their control. You're on their puppet strings because God showed me some things, but I'll deal with that a little later when I deal with the church. Hold on, church. Go get you some good seat belts. If you don't have seat belts, church, go get you some ropes. You're going to need it. The ropes are not for you to hang yourself, though you might end up wanting to, just like Judas, okay? But it's not for you to hang yourself. It's for you to tie around your waist and to keep you still, okay? To keep you halfway sanctified like you want to play that you are. because you will get real upset. You're going to get real upset more than likely, most likely, when I begin to speak forth what I heard from God. Now, the messages that I have for you, Mr. Church and Miss Church, are not messages that you're used to hearing right now in this period. Mr. Trump, I don't have any nice messages to give you other than what God has given me. I'm not here to tickle your fancy. I'm not here for you to say, you're fired. It does not matter if I'm fired. I was fired before I was ever even hired. And to you politicians, you polished politicians, you puppets of men, I am here to render you words of what God stated to me. Now, understand this here. A few things I'll say that I've said in another recording or so. However, I'm going to say these things because now these things are going to be directed directly at you, Mr. Politician, Miss Politician, President Trump. And let me say this, President Trump, they keep saying that you, sir, are not a politician. Well, you, sir, are a politician. You've always been political. You've always had your mouthpiece on politicians, especially Barack Obama. You've always had something to say about people in the media and people who are affected by the rules and the laws that were passed by politicians. When you dealt with those in New York, those 4 or 5 guys who were in New York who were wrongly accused and spent all of those years in prison for raping that woman in Central Park. You have always been political. You have always, and you are political. Politicians are liars for the most part. You are the master of it, sir. Politicians have a problem in being real. You are the master of it, sir. Politicians control money flow. You, sir, are the master of that. Politicians are always into extramarital affairs, not messing with you, sir, but sir. All right now, politicians are always somewhere making a deal. You are the man who coined, for the most part, the art of the deal. Trump, Donald, President, you, sir, are a politician. You are living a lie, expressing a lie, and you have your politician cronies helping you to push that lie. You, sir, are a modern, unpolished, unscripted politician. Period. This is what God began to say to me on March the 22nd. God said, and you politicians need to know this here because your time of exposure has come. God said, this that we're in is a time of great exposure. The truth is going to expose. You politicians, your time of great exposure has come. The truth is going to expose you. It will expose everything that is needed to be exposed. Nothing that is supposed to be exposed will be left unexposed. So, Mr. Trump, you can fire whoever you want. You can discredit whoever you want so that it does not come out. You can pay whoever you want. You can sue whoever you want. You can try to get the courts to gag whoever you want. Everything that is supposed to be exposed will be exposed. God said to me, exposure will begin at the top, where you politicians are at the top of the chain. President Trump, you are at the top of the chain. Exposure will take place among the elites. President Trump, you've always seen yourself as the elite. In fact, you feel that your genes are as elite as a person's genes can ever be, that your brain is better than the brains of the generals. President Trump, you feel that your don't stink. Okay. Exposure will take place within the powers that be. The powers that be will be exposed first. President Trump and all of you politicians, all of you, those of you on the Democratic side who aren't right, those of you who are on the Republican side who are not right. I'm not going to divide you necessarily, but I will speak to some of you directly. However, politicians, as a politician, whether you are local, federal, state, whether you are a general manager of a city, or the city manager, whether you are the governor, whatever officially elected office you may hold, if you are an elected official, this is for you. God says exposure will begin at the top. Exposure will take place among the elites. Exposure will take place within the powers that be. God says that the powers that be will be exposed first. Sirs, ma'am, you will be exposed if there is something to be exposed. The exposure of the elites and those in power will begin the exposure process. Their exposure will be laid out first. The White House will be exposed grossly. We are seeing that in this hour now. Now, God told me this back in March 22nd. Whoever knew? I mean, after all, Donald Trump, President Trump, however you want me to say it, I'm just going to say whatever I say. If I call you Donald, don't worry about it. You want to call Nancy, Tricky Nancy, and all the crazy, foolish, childish names you call them. You want to give everybody a nickname. And then you had someone like Jeff Sessions who was there with you and for you for such a period of time. And then you turned around and you knifed him. We should have known better that this is what people do in your class of things. Why? All we have to do is go back to history and see how Great Britain sent their people over here to govern or man this country land, this newfound land, or this stolen land. And then those who were over here to do that decided they wanted to be greedy, and they turned on their own and fought against their own for their independence. So people should know just by history alone that this would happen. It doesn't matter what Jeff Sessions would have done. This is what it would have come to anyway. So poor Jeffrey is out there on the streets now, for the most part, and you're in office still doing your thing, sir. Well, sir, I am here to tell you that the White House will be exposed first. If I don't call you by your name, if I don't say President Trump, those of you who hear this don't take it personally. And if you do, then it is what it is. But Donald, you don't. The Bible says, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. The Bible says that you'll reap what you sow. Well, you don't care to show anybody any respect for their positions and all. You don't even want Barack Obama to be considered a president. So if someone doesn't speak your name right, sir, don't take it personally. But if you do, I can understand it. I just can't help you there. The White House will be exposed grossly. Those within the White House will be exposed first. Their exposure will be put forth for everyone to see. Everyone will see the exposure of the White House. Right now, the White House is being exposed grossly. We have this virus that has broken out in the White House. It is exposing all of the lies and all of the deception and all of the cover-ups and all of the other issues that are going on. But I'm not going to try to fully explain that to you all. You look at what is happening and you determine if that's the exposure that I'm referencing to now. Their exposure will be put forth for everyone to see. Everyone will see the exposure of the White House. Everyone will see it for themselves. No one will have to say a thing. God told me this way back in March. Nothing will need to be said. It will all be laid bare. It will all be made bare for everyone to see. I will expose the U.S. president. Now, let me say this right here. So many of you people are out there prophesying on that internet. I saw President Trump and Kim Clement said this and this one said that and this one said that and there's this and there's that and there's this and there's that. And everything is positive toward this president. And I'm like Jeremiah, I'm saying, wait a minute, God. Now, that is not what I hear you saying. And God kept saying to me, don't worry about what they're saying. Speak what I'm telling you. Speak what you hear from me. And you all are out there. I'm sure, Donald, a lot of your pride and a lot of your assuredness is coming from the realm of the church. The church is feeding into your humanity. They're feeding into your pride. They're feeding you to the animals, to the dogs, and you don't even realize it. They're setting you up. Now, perhaps they don't even know they're setting you up, but sir, they're setting you up. You're being set up and you don't realize it. Go back and read Nebuchadnezzar and stop allowing them to confuse you with you being Cyrus. You're not Cyrus, sir. Yes, you did grant some things, but you granted things based upon fallacy, based upon some lies, based upon some perceptual thoughts and revelations or supposed prophetic words of Daniel or Ezekiel or even Revelation regarding Israel and all of this other stuff. And then here we have Israel being uncovered for all of the foolishness that it is doing as well. Now the church would say that I am cursed for what I'm saying about Israel. No, church. If anything, you're cursed yourself for believing the lie and helping to kill off and cut off a whole nother sect of this world because of your prejudices and your ignorance and your foolishness and your blind religion. God says this. I will expose the U.S. president. This is his day of exposure. This is his period to be exposed. Do you understand now, people, that Donald Trump is being exposed for who he truly is? Now, everyone is not going to see this here, and everyone is not going to believe this here, not going to want to accept it because people have their preconceived ideas and notions. But it is what it is. I have to speak forth. Donald Trump, I don't have anything against you personally. I never knew you. I never really paid attention to you. I saw you here and there, but I didn't really pay attention to you. You weren't anything that stood out in my head that I needed to know. That I needed to be affiliated with. So it didn't bother me. But what bothers me, sir, is the position you hold in the things that you do. I don't have a problem in you being president, especially if God put you in that office. What I have a problem with are the things that defy principle and defy common sense and common love for mankind. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with you stoking the ways of old. I have a problem with you strengthening the hatred, the anger, and the concepts of the past that had so many people in bondage, oppressed, killed. I have a problem with that. But if you win the presidency, I wouldn't have a problem necessarily with you winning the presidency. I would have a problem with where this country and where my race will end up on the spectrum if you were to win. God says, this is your day of exposure, Mr. Trump. He said, this is your period to be exposed. When God told me that, I knew that one of the things that had to be exposed are your taxes. And now we're beginning to see your taxes exposed, because I knew once his taxes are exposed, then I'll know that what God stated here to me is true, because that's the one thing that you were able to utilize the courts to your advantage for and get out of all of it. Because you promised that you would show them and you never did show them. And then your people never held you to the fire on that. However, I was waiting to see, because God told me this again in March. Yet it wasn't until now in October, or should I say maybe the last week of September, that we finally got to hear some things about your taxes. Those were some very interesting things, sir. This is his period to be exposed. Those of you who were wondering when, Mr. Trump, this is now. Paula White, I don't know what's wrong with you, sister. I don't know what's wrong with you, because you rode off the backs of blacks in the church. You went into Tampa, Florida, and you took advantage. Those black folks loved you, and they gave you their last pennies, many of them. And what you did, Randy White, I saw that guy's heart. I could see that Randy had some genuineness in him. Randy had some personal issues, but we all do. But Paula, I don't understand you. I don't understand what you did. I don't understand the situation with Zachary Timms. I don't understand, and I don't like what I saw regarding Reva Timms. I don't understand that, and I don't like any of it. And Paula White, it's amazing the true color of you that has come forth. And I'm not talking about the true outward color necessarily. I'm talking about the inward color of your heart. I don't understand you. I don't, because you got where you are off the backs of blacks. Before you began to claim other people as your spiritual father, you were claiming Bishop T.D. Jakes as your spiritual father. Even people such as Ivory Hilliard had issues with you. I don't understand you, Paula. I don't. And it doesn't mean that I'm not of God, and that's why I don't understand you. It's just that I understand what I see, but I don't understand how you're able to operate in what I see. That's messy, Paula. But anyway, it's going to be hard to separate the politicians and the president from the church, but I'm going to do my best. This is Donald Trump's period to be exposed. Those of you who are concerned, God win, God win, God win. People, hear what I'm saying. It's now. God says, I will expose his dealings. I will expose his finances. And my God, it came out in September. I will expose his businesses. I will expose his heart. People, don't you see Donald Trump's heart laid out on the altar? Do you not see his heart? His heart is laid out. His heart, God says his heart will be exposed. The contents of his heart will be exposed before everyone. Everyone will see for themselves. God says no one will be able to cover the president. No longer will anyone be able to cover him. No longer will his deeds be covered. No one will be able to defend him. People will try, but they will fail miserably. When I look at Sarah Huckabee Sanders, shame on you. When I look at the one who was before her, I forgot his name, but he was fired first. When I look at you, bruh, I'm like, when you were doing it, I was like, don't you realize what's getting ready to happen to you? But apparently you didn't realize it. Then when I look at who came behind her in Scaramucci or whatever, and he didn't last but a couple of days. And he came out with a big stick, but now he realizes himself. Now he's a pundit or whatever. When I look at people like the new one now, she just came down with the virus. She's been fighting just as hard as any of them, Sean and all of them. She's fought harder than any of them, or at least as hard, callous, cold. But you've always had your mouthpieces to speak for you, Donald Trump, President Trump. And then you have your Fox News, and that's is what it is. To each his own. That's all I say about that. Then you have your other mouthpiece who's been your mouthpiece forever, Kellyanne. It is amazing all of the people who are willing to lay their life down I guess for the one they love. You know, Jesus said, no greater love can a man have than to lay down his life for the one he loves, for his friend. It is what it is, you know. But God says no one will be able to defend you. People will try, God says, but they will fail miserably. Every time people try to cover it up, every time people try to fix it up, it never works. It never sticks. God says they will fail every chance they get. There will be no cover for him. His days of covering will be complete. His days of covering will be over. Those who defend him will be exposed. They will be exposed as well. Those who defend him will be exposed. You will be exposed as well. God says your businesses will be exposed. Your dealings will be exposed. Your careers will be exposed. Nothing that is to be exposed will be left unexposed. It will all be exposed. It will all be brought forth for the people to see. Remember, you serve the people. Listen, God said to me on March the 29th, he says the events of this season will bring the mightiest to their knees. Do you understand, President Trump, that you are one of the highest men in this? You are the highest in this nation in that position. You are amongst the highest in the world. God says this season is going to bring the mightiest to their knees. You politicians, you are right up under him. Those of you who work in the office with him, you chief of staff and all of you other people, you are right up under that Pence. You listen, you tuck your head in Europe, you claim God and Christ and all of this, whatever. It is what it is. I'm not here to judge you, but listen, sir, you too. God says this season is going to bring the mightiest to their knees. The events of this season will bring the most powerful to their knees. This season will humble the most influential. Mr. Trump, Mr. Pence, you politicians, you senators, you congressmen and women, you supreme justices, listen. This season will humble the most influential. Many in power will lose their positions. That's you all up there. They will lose their positions of power. Many will be shifted into position. Many will be positioned into position through the shift that is occurring in this season. People look for the political arena to look completely different. Look for there to be a complete shakeup and overhaul in the political system from the top to the bottom, throughout. All of you governors who sell out, who sell your souls to whatever. You don't care about your people, the people that you represent, the people that God have you before and leading. You don't care about them. You don't care about their lives. You don't care about pardoning the correct people, the proper people. You don't care about justice being served. Listen, God in this season is knocking at your door. Just go ahead on and open up. Because remember, no door can keep him back anyway. So you might as well open the door. If not, he'll just walk right through. Ask Paula. She knows the Bible. She knows what Jesus did. They will lose their positions of power. Many will be shifted into position. Many will be positioned into position through the shift that is occurring. God has positioned people to move right into the positions of these current politicians who are not serving justly, who are not living in a rightful manner. I don't even want to say righteous manner, a rightful manner, in a respectful manner, in a manner of integrity. God is moving you out of position. God says this is a season where people will be moved into your positions and into their rightful positions. People who have been positioned, you politicians, those of you, all of you. God says people have been positioned to move into your positions. People who have been positioned will be put into your positions. No one will be saved through their own influence, through the office, through the influence of the fact that I'm senator this, I'm congressman, a congresswoman that, I'm president this, I'm vice president that, I'm the governor of, I'm the city, I'm on the city council, I'm on this, I'm the city man. It does not matter who you are, sir, ma'am. God in this season is knocking at your door. You might as well go ahead on and open up, because he'll come right through anyway, because that's what he's doing. He's coming right through your city hall. He's coming right through your governor's mansion. He's coming right through all of you city council members' meetings. He's coming right through the presidential election. He's coming right through the vice president's election as well. He's coming right through the Senate. He's coming right through the Supreme Court. He's coming right through the halls of Congress. Trust what I'm saying. No one will be saved through their influence. No one will be saved through their position. No one will be saved because of their riches, because of your lobbyists, and because of those supporting you and backing you up, your wealthy donors, your wealthy dinner donors, paying $1 million per plate, coming to see your home for $1 million, $2 million. You scratch mine, I'll scratch yours when tax time comes, when tax laws come. It's just all of mess, but God is coming to level the playing field. Those of you people out here who support him and them, listen, I don't have anything necessarily against you. I have to speak what God has told me, and I have to speak from my own conviction. The Bible says that let every man be convinced or convicted in his own mind. I am convinced and convicted as to what is right, what is proper, what is just, and what is godly or of the godly sort. I'm speaking towards that. Again, I am neither Democrat nor Republican. I don't want to stand on the side of either. I want to stand on the side of right, whatever side that is. Hopefully that's right down the middle. This is not a season, God says, of exemption. So President Trump, Vice President Pence, you're not exempt from what's going on in this season. President Trump, I believe that's why you are currently, as I am recording this message, wrestling with this coronavirus. Sir, see, you're not exempt from this here. I understood that if God truly said to me, in which he did, that no one is exempt in this season, then I knew that regardless of who you are in politics, be susceptible to this here. When I saw the president over in, can't remember what country he was in, who had it as well. He's like baby Trump, baby Donald Trump in his country, in Great Britain or wherever he's at over in that area over there. When I saw him, Boris Yeltsin, I think that's what his name is. When I saw that, and now, sir, Mr. President, now that you have it and your wife has it, that just solidifies that what God was stating to me regarding this is true, because no one is exempt, and you are the highest in office in the nation, and you, sir, and many of your cabinet members now have it. And all of those, just about all of those who have been covering for you for the past year and have been making mockery out of this virus situation for the past year, now they possess it as well. And then when I look at the church and how many high officials have died from, listen, no one is exempt from this season. This is a season where everyone is subject to the events of this season. No one is exempt from this season. No one is exempt in this season. Not one of you politicians, not you, Mr. President, not you, Mr. Vice President, not you, Mr. Governor. Several governors have gotten it, have contracted it as well. It does not matter what position you're in. Everyone, God says, everyone is within reach during this season. Everyone is subject to the events of this season. Listen, understand this. On April 6th, God said to me, the virus is silencing. He said the virus is creating a silence. The virus is silencing voices. Don't you understand, sirs and ma'ams, you politicians of all levels? Do you not realize that the virus, that the spiritual aspect of the virus, that the physical manifestation of the virus is coming through your halls and coming through your meetings and coming through your gatherings, and it's silencing? This season is going to silence the familiar voices, the voices that have been loud and boisterous. This season, this virus, what this virus stands for, the pandemic, this period, this divine period, the familiar voices are being taken over by the virus of this divine period. The virus is silencing the voices that people have become accustomed to. The outside voices of the people are being silent. The voices that were before the virus are being put to silence. You politicians of America, hear what God is saying. The virus is changing everything that is familiar. The virus is removing the familiar sounds. The virus is removing the familiar sights. Don't you get too comfortable, Mr. and Mrs. Politicians. Those of you who know you not living worth much of nothing, don't you get too comfortable. Don't you get too comfortable in that seat. Don't you get too comfortable with that stipend you're getting. Don't you get too comfortable with those lobbyists. Don't you lobbyists put yourselves in a hole with the politician who won't even be there on the next election, after the next election. The virus is removing the familiar family components. The virus is impacting the state of the economy. The economic world is shaking, and you politicians can do nothing for it. The economic world is shattering to pieces, and all of your trickery and deception that got things to where they are beyond what was established by those who were trying to go about it a more right way, and you took all of that credit from them and you took it upon yourselves. And now you've done everything to manipulate and influence the stock market, influence those in trading. You know very well how to work and milk the stock market, how to move stocks, how to cause other people's stocks to fall and whatever to your benefit. Well, understand this. The gains of the world, the gains that you politicians of this divided America, your gains are turning into total losses. This is what God said. The buildings are being destroyed from within. The buildings are being dismantled from within. The buildings are left standing, but the economic flow within those buildings are coming to a halt. Though the buildings remain, the people within those buildings are being dismantled. Listen, you politicians, you're being dismantled and you don't even realize it. Some of you do sense something, and you're fighting for dear life, hoping that if you just put a few more spins and add a few more lies and turn a few more tricks, then maybe you will have a fighting chance. The political noise has ceased, God said. The political noise has been silenced. The political noise has been silenced by the political woes. The political noise has become the political woes. God says the noise that you hear, the noise that still remains, within the world of the politics of this divided America will no longer be. The noise that you hear will cease in its existence. There will be a complete silence. There will be complete silence in the political arena. The political system will be totally revamped. The political system will receive a total overhaul. The people will place demands upon the political systems that will change the systems. You politicians, you can't help enough to silence those who are out there in those streets protesting, those who are out there in those streets showing their anger and their aggression. Those who are out there trying to get a message to you. Now, I'm not saying everyone who's out there and destroying property or whatever is out there trying to get you to hear them. But I am saying this. If the hand of God is behind you, Mr. Trump, then the hand of God has to be behind those, even those who are burning buildings and who are tearing down things. Why? Because you're no more holy than they are. You are no more righteous than they are. Not even you, the church. These people are no more unrighteous than you. You are just as filthy and nasty and unrighteous as any other system, but I'll deal with you later. This is not where I come at you with what God stated right now. But anyway, let everything be done. The people will demand more. The people will begin to demand more from their political systems. That's what God stated, and that's where we are. Listen, this is of God. America, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Mr. Governor, Miss Governor, Mr. City Council, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Politician. Listen, God is knocking real loud throughout this season. Prepare yourself. Get yourself right. Gather your bags up. Gather your bags up. Jeremiah was told by God to tell the people that they're going to have to go into captivity. They didn't want to hear it. They even put Jeremiah in a dungeon type setting for what he was saying, but they still had to go into captivity. You can do whatever you want, but you'll have no power at all except that which was given to you by God. Ask Paula White. She knows what that means. She'll point it to you. She probably can't live it, but she'll point it to you. It's hard, but it's right. It's tight, but it's proper. This is where we are. There's a time and season for all things. Listen, this is not a time to be quiet. This is a time to speak forth that which was heard. This is not a time to build, but this is a time to tear down that which has already been built. It is what it is. It has to be what it is. And we're not finished by far. So let's continue on in the next one.